Welcome back to another edition of Components Breakdown. Today we're going to take a look at the game Dungeon Crawler. Dungeon Crawler was released at Gen Con 2010. It is a 1 to 6 player game that is a collectible card game, but it has some aspects of a living card game in the fact that once you buy the starter and a box of the boosters, you would have all the required cards that you would need to play the game. So with that, let's open up the box and take a look inside. So looking inside the box, the first thing you're going to notice is the rulebook. It's a very small rulebook. It's a 40-page rulebook from front to back. We'll get into this a little bit later once we break down the components a little bit more. There's 3 compartments on the insert itself. The first compartment on the right-hand side has the dungeon cards. The dungeon cards primarily consist of the terrain that you'll be visiting and all the monsters that you'll be fighting in the game. There's a bag of tokens that has various gameplay elements to them. There are your adventure and your quest cards. These consist of the quests that you're going on to complete the game, and then the adventures that you'll be using. And the last compartment on the left-hand side are the crawler cards. The crawler cards are your equipment cards, your tactics, your skills that you'll be using in order to play the game. So with that, let's set up a game and show you briefly what I think about it. So now we've laid out the game, and I'll show you how the game is set up to be played. As a forewarning, I have not completed a game of this from beginning to end in the solitaire format at all, or in any format. The game can be played, as I mentioned earlier, like Magic the Gathering, where you sit across from the table and play or compete against other players. Let's walk through quickly the setup. On the left-hand side, you have the dungeon deck, which gets shuffled, as well as the crawler deck. You have 4 heroes that set up. The heroes can be chosen from the starter pack. I believe there's 2 extra heroes, or 1 extra hero in the starter deck that you can use. And on the right-hand side, you have the quests that you're trying to fulfill. Each of them has 3 quests that you're trying to fill. As you go up in degree of difficulty, you can complete a 4th quest just to make the game harder. There's also some tokens off to the side which are used for specific gameplay elements. And I've laid some cards in the center, and we'll get to those in just a moment. The biggest complaint I have with the game is that the rulebook is probably the worst written rulebook I've ever read in my life. Now, I've done a BGG written review of the game, and I'll link that up as well at the bottom of this review to show everybody my complaints, but we'll walk through them briefly here as well. As I mentioned first, the rulebook is 40 pages from front to back, but only 9 of those 40 pages have anything to do with the rules and the turn play order and how cards play out from one turn to the next. There's a lot of spaces in here where the text is so small to read that it's just impossible. For instance, this page here. This text here has to be 1 point. And I'll zoom in as best I can, and actually the camera picks it up better than my eye can. Some of it, though, it's impossible to read just because of the printing quality. The biggest complaint I have, though, of all in the rulebook is that most games, when they first initially release to the public, for instance, we'll go back to Magic the Gathering and the World of Warcraft, they ship with about 3 to 5, maybe 6 keywords or attributes that you have to learn in the game, such as first strike and flying and whatnot. This game ships with 78 keywords and attributes which you have to learn. That is no small feat, and there's no explanation how any of those work in actual gameplay elements. Now, there is an online tutorial that you can watch on their website, but it gives no real explanation on how any of those keywords work. And to give you an idea of what those keywords look like, look at some of these cards. They have a huge amount of text on them, which you have to know when they come into play. And usually the attributes section of the rulebook are explained in some very vague terms with a lot of X equals X plus X. For instance, look at this one here, minions X, type X times X, search through the cost of X or less times X, which equals a quantity. None of that stuff makes sense. That's like a science equation. What they need to do is they need to really concentrate on their rules and get that out before the public gets this in mass quantities, because no one's going to want to play this game, myself included. This is a game that I am just keeping for the fact that I am hoping, simply because it can be played solitaire, that they're going to fix these rules. Now, it's been over a month since Gen Con has come and gone, and there's been an errata that's been out and some facts on some of the specific cards, but there's been no change to the gameplay, no examples that really show you how all the cards are played, and that needs to be fixed. My suggestion is just to avoid this game at all costs. Don't even look at it just completely forget that it even exists until they can come out and fix the elements that need to be fixed. Now, there are people going to be complaining about that and say, well, you really shouldn't, judge a game if you haven't played it from beginning to end. Well, I'm sorry, but if I can't read the rules and I can't understand the rules, then I shouldn't have to sit there and fuddle with the game for 5-6 hours trying to figure out what each card does. I'm up to playing this again and learning it with someone that would know how to play the game, but I just don't think that's possible at this point. So my recommendation is just to avoid it until anything comes out where they fix the rule set itself. So, sorry for the bad review, but thanks for watching.